Hey, friends. Okay, it's been, well, for you, you don't know because these just come out every week, but I have been delinquent often by a week or two or three. At the time of this recording, I am prepping I already have next week's done, but for me, this one, which is coming out March 2nd, is I'm usually not this far behind. So I just want to say, and let's try it this way. I try to play where the mic goes and how to make it sound better. I like this episode, this article, and I'm going to tell you why, because I really want to give you about the behind the scenes on this specific conversation. So we have this staffer. I've worked with her even before she was on staff. It's Lindsay. And so I work with Lindsay. I worked with her at, I can say my previous church, which is still my current church, but we did a merger there. And so she's still on staff with us. And she came from a great family and had a great way to process life. And one of these phrases was sandpaper people. Now, sandpaper smooths and it's good on the surface that it needs. Now, it is true, and sandpaper is on a surface, both the sandpaper changes and the person changes. But when we talk about sandpaper people, what we were trying to do in this this article, is speak more about how we are the ones who are needing changing. And when there are people that maybe our defenses rise up, we get frustrated near the coworker, the friend, that person who's just a little different than you or does a couple of things that you don't like. And it might be that usually you do like it, but then over the course of a million years or 10 times or whatever it is, you kind of go, ugh. So I was just at a leadership retreat for our church, and there were 7 of us spending 2 days together. And a lot of dinners, breakfast, lunch, and dinner all at the same table. And I found myself by the end of the time being like, man, I'm really, really getting tired of the way that everyone here eats or their food noises. It just was too quiet. We were getting tired. And so it was just one of those things where it's ridiculous, but that's not a them problem. That's a me problem. So we want to use this and talk about how there are people in our lives who do that to us. Recognize that we are this for someone else. And I'm only learning more now, even internally, about how I am this for others. Now, it was funny, Courtney was editing this, and this GIF was her favorite GIF. She laughed so much at it. But anyways, that's not the most important thing for what we're doing right now. So I have always recognized that both my personality just doesn't jive with everybody. Is that the end of the world? No, but I become more and more aware of it. And so when staff would say, Hans, we are not always wanting to walk by your office because we have a certain way that we think that you engage with us that makes us uncomfortable, or your stern face. I was even told that recently by, hey, sometimes when I come into your office and you have that face, it says, why the heck are you here? And so I know that is not, people don't always loathe interacting with me, but I do know that I have some areas that are rough for others. And so before we think about others, we need to realize that we are this for people as well. So who's the problem? Well, I can't address what's going on in someone else, but I can address what's going on with me about or around someone else. And that's the thing that we get to go at here. So the article moves toward, hey, before we get too caught up in it, you're the problem. Now, this little task is something that I began to do at the beginning of the year. And it's twice a month, so not a ton of conversations. And in fact, at their elder retreat, we just did a similar version of basically a long-term, a longer version of how can I improve. But I've asked, people I work with, Jesse, I've asked Andrew, I've asked Lindsay, and then this guy, Michael, is a pastor and leader that's on the west side of the Houston area. And we were at a lunch together, and he did not want to answer the question. And then goes, no, I'll say one. And gave me that feedback about that. Now, here's what was interesting is through the conversation, and again, you can read it all, but through the conversation, when he got to that, I'm very intense and he doesn't mind it, but I have to enter in. This is now like the third time, I'm hearing this in stereo. It's like the third time I've heard something like that this year in 2026. And so I know that this is going to be an important thing for me to address. I even said recently, I'm not sure how to change that. I'm not sure how to address it. I know I need to, but I'm not sure how. But the ability to become more self-aware, the capacity to become more self-aware of how we are, that last question, someone else's sandpaper person, really does go a long way. So the heart of the article was to both, you'll find this theme in these substacks is they're often about addressing me, my issues, what I've done wrong, how I'm learning in a way that allows you to do some thinking yourself. And so the question is, how can I grow? How can I grow? And then ask yourself that question rather than go, they're so difficult for me. How do I make it difficult for them or for others? And so there you go. Sandpaper people, the behind the scenes.